Peter. Welcome everybody to the presentations of the 2026 Typelab graduation projects. We have 10 students waiting. Welcome everybody to the presentations of the 2026 Typelab graduation projects. We have 10 students waiting. Welcome everybody to the presentations of the 2026. Thanks. I had YouTube on and it was echoing, and it's very difficult to speak. Okay, I will start again. Hello, everybody. This is the 2026 Typelab graduation work presentations. Fantastic work this year. And we are going to start. We have 10 presentations. We don't have a break. We will be watching. We have Lisa Bauer to begin with. Lisa.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Lisa. I'm 25 years old. I'm from Austria, and this is my final project. So before Typelab, it was very important for me to just really learn how to sketch, how to make my typefaces more dynamic, how to make them more friendly, and I also really wanted to push myself more out of my comfort zone. So the beginning of my project basically was me finding an old book in my grandma's home, and I was just really impressed by the typography it contained. And since I wanted to practice more calligraphy in the first place, I kind of used the book as a template. And yeah, after using that book as a template for different calligraphy experiments, I also went to Aya's penmanship book and yeah, just practice different things. And during those calligraphic explorations, I tried to switch my tools. I first started working with a broad nib brush, and I also tried working with a monoline gel pen. And while experimenting, at some point, I got a little bit tired of trying to make beautiful letter shapes. So I kind of forgot everything that you should think of while doing calligraphy. So I stopped thinking about pressure, angle, and all those things. And I came across these letters. And what I really liked about them was not so much the shape themselves, but just the line that or the stroke that was created. Yeah, and it seemed quite three-dimensional to me. And that sparked interest in three-dimensional letter shapes. And for that, I went to the House of the Book and to Eric's studio, and I just made some research on them. And I was just very fascinated about 19th century ornamental letter shapes, and yeah, especially Nicolette's Gray work. And so I got sketching. I did many sketches, but the issue with that was that I was kind of drawing without focus or any application in mind. So I kind of hit a wall, and I had to just rethink and restructure my sketches. And I separated them in a more calligraphic approach and in like a three-dimensional approach. And back then I decided to go with the calligraphic approach just because that was kind of what I wanted to get out of my last months at Typelab. And yeah, so I kind of pitched my first project on that. So I wanted to have a decorative typeface for various publication design contexts based on calligraphic explorations. And I wanted to have a Roman in different weights, an italic in different weights, and decorative alphabet for initials and headlines. And this was kind of the first sketch that I started with. What I liked about it was that it was like very different from the things I did before. It felt dynamic, it felt elegant, and yeah, just I was really much enjoying it. So I started sketching an upright version based on that. And what I did is I tried to build a typeface family from that. So I took kind of a monoline and I added more weight for different letter shapes. And back then it was already kind of difficult to maintain the details that I had in the thinner italic style to like the bolder upright versions. But yeah, I did my first digitization, and for that I tried to recreate my sketches as good as possible. So I kept more of a low contrast. I tried to have the calligraphic movement in the serifs, I decided back then to use asymmetrical slab serifs and a little bit of harsher terminal treatment. And the first big change for my typeface was a 2-degree slant, which was recommended by Fritz Meyers. And yeah, I really like that detail just because I came from sketching italics, and yeah, it kind of felt very suitable for the style I was aiming for. And I went to digitizing more weights quite quickly. And I also went to Berlin with those digitalizations. And I often received the feedback that my typeface isn't in between. It's not very calligraphic, it's not very textish, it's not very display-like. So I really had to rethink my entire project idea. And I had a nice talk with Celine, and we talked about things that I enjoy. And I decided on, instead of making the typeface for various publication design, to just focus it on book design, on classical book design for long form reading. And for that, I wanted to have also the Roman, the italic, and since it was based on a book, it also allowed me to reintroduce the three-dimensional letter shapes back into my design for book cover usage. So the main styles I worked on was extra bold Roman, a regular Roman, regular italic, extra bold italic, and a book cover style. And yeah, for the extra bold Roman, this was my first digitalization, and it had a lot of issues for long form reading. There were many details that were just not suitable. So I really had to rethink some of the details. For that, I also went back to my revival to just rethink some contrast situations and also like the width. Yeah. And this is an overview of the main steps I took. So it's a change in width, change of details. I included more softer terminal treatment since I wanted it to have a friendly character, the 2-degree slant state, and in the end, I reintroduced asymmetrical serifs. This is the final text from the extra bold and the first digitalization in comparison. And for me, that shows instant reading relief. For my for my regular Roman, I kind of had the same issues to begin with. And what I did is I put it aside since I was working a lot on the extra board, and then reintroduced the detailing I took back into the regular style, just because like when things work in an extra board, they will also work in a regular style. And what I did is, in the end, I changed some of the proportions just to make it more suitable for long form reading. This is the regular in text. And I did a lot of proofing this semester, and I really just realized that the smaller the text is, the nicer a little bit more weight is. So in the end, I decided to have 2 regular weights, a lighter one for larger sizes and a darker one for smaller sizes. And this is the regular number 2, the darker one in text. During this semester, I really enjoyed working on symbols. I really just found them, for me, they're such a nice way to make a font more fun. And I feel like I really improved my drawing skills with them. And for the symbols, I tried to also just reintroduce the characteristics that I had in my letters with the terminal treatment, and yeah, just adding some fun things to use in a book. Then for the regular italic, this was the first digitalization for the regular italic. For this, I had to change the contrast to match it with the regular Roman. And also here I went through some yeah, detailing with the first digitalization. Then I had more of the like usual bookish serifs, and for the final digitalization, I went back to more of a slab serif treatment with the curvature. Yeah, and then the italic in text. Then I, of course, also worked on an extra bold italic. For that, I took the regular italic and added more weight and just tried to keep the width as good as possible to not get it too wide too soon. the extra bold in text. And overall, I worked on these styles. So it's the regular number 1, regular number 2, a medium weight, a semi-bold weight, a bold weight, and then extra bold weight for upright and italic. And my styles contain language support, small caps, ligatures, different sets of numbers, different punctuation and symbols, and some ornaments. With this project, I also worked on a cover style for book covers, and I asked myself, because I come from a text background, what does display even mean for me and my application? I first started working on italics, and for that, I kind of took the italic I had for my text and I kind of made the detailing a little bit more intense. But that was not that nice to use on book covers because there's just not that much space. And yeah, I just had to rethink that. And I also still thought about the ornamental stuff I did in the beginning. So the first thing I did was to just make the letter shapes border, but I had the same issue there with just the letter shapes taking up too much space while designing with them. So what I did is I made an uppercase set, a condensed one that still kind of showed the detailing I had for my first digitization with the curvature in the stem, a little bit more of the slab serif treatment, and yeah, just enough weight for them to apply ornamentation. For that, I went back to my March sketches and then tried out different things just with quick iPad sketches. And in the end, I digitized different ones for outline, inline, different shadows, and decorations. And then to my specimen part, so this is a cover, then cover with my textile in text, then my text weights in complex typography, some of the detailing from my typeface. And thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Lisa. Amazing work. We continue to Adriana. Adriana, are you ready?
Yes, hold on. I'm going to check if this is working. Do you see a very bright pink screen?
Yes, do see a very bright pink screen.
Perfect. Okay, let me set my timer. I wish I don't go over time. Okay, well, welcome. My name is Adriana Garcidueñas. I'm from Mexico, Morelia, Michoacán, arriba Mexico. And welcome to my TED Talk. I might go a little bit faster on the first half because I have a lot to show, so bear with me and I hope I don't rap. If not, yeah, it is what it is. So I'm gonna show you my type media process, my type media project, and it's called Artemis and the Queens of the Lululand. I'm gonna show you what is this all about in a bit, in a few minutes. So first, this was my type media dilemma. What should I do? What would I wanted to do for this project, for this program? I wonder what I wanted to reach with my project, what the things were the things that I wanted to learn. And I wanted to do something that challenged myself because I kind of do already know how to produce letters and letter shapes, but I was focused more on the plasticity of the letter. So I wonder what would be the best project that I could get the best out of me, but also the best out of the teachers. So I wondered if I should do a text or a display. And here comes a little bit of rant because sometimes people think that the texts are like the supreme forms that the type designs where you can learn a lot of about type design, but I differ a little bit because I think you can learn a lot from the text but also a lot from the display, because I heard a comment that they say that you can get away with a lot of things from the displays on the displays, and the text needs a lot of refinement and yada yada yada, which I do believe it, but I think you need to be very precise on the text, but also on the displays, you can see everything. You can see every little curve. And oh my God, that is stressing. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about that on the next chapters. But I decided I wanted to do both. I wanted to do a text and a display because I wanted to learn everything. So my project is about brush explorations, and I presented this on the Kickout. We presented a lot of ideas, and this is the one that it got chosen by me and also recommended by the teachers, and is doing really weird stuff with the brush. I'm gonna explain this a bit further. But first, I just grabbed the brush and did like whatever I wanted to do. It was just like the warm up, very random, to lose a hand and just for fun. Then I started to go back into the calligraphic models. I went back to my beloved, dearest Trajan Romans, but also to my other beloved Gothics. I also tried some new styles, for example, the uncials, but it was just for fun. Then I started to analyze the brush. What were the two things about the brush that I liked the most about? So I decided to focus my attention on two sides of the brush. One is the object, literally like the brush, and it has width, it has bristles, and also it has thickness. But also I divided like the exploration on the motion. And what you can do, for example, you can translate the brush and it leaves a mark on the paper, but also you can expand the brush, the bristles, and also you can rotate. And I started to explore these two things, but a little bit intentionally thinking about the Roman Trojans and how you have to manipulate the brush really, really with a lot of care, because you have to put the tip of the brush and then you have to expand the bristles and then you have to rotate. So it's a lot of motion and I love it. It's literally expansion, rotation, and translation all at once at the same time. And I was like, "Oh, this is amazing." Sorry. Then I started to get crazier because what if we do apply a little bit more of rotation? And as a product of this rotation, I got these really incredible lines that obviously they come because the brush is getting dry, but also it literally leaves the traces of the rotation, and I thought this was amazing. Later on, I realized, or actually Hen Ramirez, shout out, he told me that this could be called dynamic rotation, and I thought it was really amazing. And so I applied this dynamic rotation to the calligraphic models that I was producing. And this was some of the explorations, and I love them. It was really hard because it was really hard to control the brush in that level, but it was really amazing. I also made some experiments with the brush. I play guilty of butchering this lovely brush, but it was what it was needed to do. But I don't think this was as interesting as fun as the other explorations. So this was my first digital prototype, and it's just straightforward. I grabbed my calligraphy and I digitized, and it was really nice. Then I started to thinking, how do I capture the rotation and the texture of my experiments into digital? So I made a crazy prototype, which is, I love it. And was the first digital sketch that I have in. And I mean, I love it and it's really nice, but I don't think it captures. It doesn't show how the brush rotates. So it was nice, but I don't think it was working. So then it was the time for the text. So these are my exploration on the Romans. And first, I got really influenced by a German-Dutch lettering artist and book designer called Helmut Salden. His work is amazing, and I was amazed. So I copied his work with the brush. And then I produced my very first prototype my idea was to make a very brushy text typeface. But as you can see, this is not very brushy. This is more lettering, so I think I took the reference very literal. So I didn't thought it was a mistake or like a failure. It was just part of the process, and I kept going. Then I jumped to the Gothic because I wanted to do a Gothic style, like very displayish. And I kept working on the explorations of the expansion and the rotation axis. And I came up to this beautiful sketch. Well, no, it's not a sketch, it's a calligraphy, where you can see clearly how I expand and I rotate the brush. Obviously not as intense as the very weird styles, but I love it. And I really was fascinated. And I just literally went on top of this and I trace it and I love it. And this is my first Gothic. And I applied the same with the rotated version and I digitize. And this was so hard because once you get rid of the texture of the lines, to can explain to the eyes that this is rotation is really hard. So I had a hard time, but I think it's really lovely. It was really lovely. So at this time, this was my design space. This is what I wanted to do. And this was some of my research questions. For example, at what point size do I lose the brushiness? If this looks like a true family, where is my style? Where is my Mexicanity? Or if I wanted to have it? And these are the questions that they were running through my head. Then I went back to the Roman and I started once again with the brush. And this time I made it two versions, one more plain and the other a little bit more dynamic. And I produced this this prototype, the second Roman prototype that I swear it was very brushy, but it turns out not to be very brushy. And I was desperate, but it was fine. This is part of the process. Everything is fine. So I took this to Berlin because we went there for font stand and also we got a lot of feedback and it was amazing. I met a new friends and it was very lovely. But we had to go back to work and I presented my sketches and at the Type Crit at Chic and Toika. And I got a lot of feedback. Some people told me that I should only focus on the Gothics. Some people told me like doing a mixing of stuff. And I heard his feedback, but at the end I did what I thought it was best for this project. Also during that expedition, that trip to Berlin, I went to the Holocaust Museum and I was really shocked because I saw examples of black letters and I was really shocked. And yeah, that was intense. And I was doubting if I should keep doing like the Gothics. But then I after a lot of talks with the teachers and myself, I felt like, okay, I'm gonna stop here because my references are really, really different. These are my references and are my crazy Mexican Gothics inspiration. So I was thinking like, I'm gonna do very different things and this is fine. Also, this is my title. I mean, the Gothics and the Mexicans do really blend very well, very well. So yeah. So I went back to the Roman because oh my God, the Roman, it was a thing. So in this point, I decided to split the Roman to have the display and the text because I needed some guidance from the display to the text so I could understand how could I put the brush into the text. Then I stopped a little bit and I started expanding. I had language support and I also started exploring the italics and also I kept working on the weird ones because they're amazing. And so at this point, this was my my design space. And for each style, I wanted to explore something different. For example, for the Gothics, I'm exploring their brush rotation and also the destruction of the shapes. I know this sounds very dramatic, but it's the rotation principle. For the Romans, I want to explore expressiveness in small sizes, the optical size axis For the italics, I wanted to explore the sharpness and the softness. And I also had an ultra display, but oh my gosh, it was already too much. So this one, it didn't happen, but maybe in the future, who knows? Then I went back to the text because this was so hard, but it was so nice. So this is what I had previously. And I produced this new prototype that it was working better with the other styles because this is a family, they should be related. But at some point, I had a chocolate situation that I call like that, where it's like I dip like the sharp one and I dip it into chocolate. And the result of that, it was my letters because it started to get like wobbly and melty. And I was like in despair, but everything is part of the process. So I got a lot of feedback. I reached to friends to ask them for feedback. And Hen Ramirez told me to forget about the brush because I'm doing a typographic system, not a calligraphy work. And that was mind blowing and does makes all the sense in the world. So I was like, yes, okay. And also Fred Meyer told me that there is no tiny brush that could write letters that small. And that also makes sense. I was like, yes, of course. So I went back and also guided by some by one comment of Alexandra. She told me, "Have you ever tried to print the display in small sizes?" And I was like, "What? No, but let's try." And the result actually was working really well. Of course, it was breaking at some points, but it was like the the base on where I put the text so it could maintain the calligraphicness of the brush, but also doing their stuff as the text requires. So it was a long process. It was a lot of iteration. These aren't them all, but I learned a lot that the big gestures in small gets in the way of reading. Small details disappear really quickly, but also that the brushiness can remain in small sizes, but they need to impact the shape way stronger. And also, one thing that is super important is that spacing is everything. So I present you my text typeface. This is Artemis Roman, and oh my god, I love it. It's very it has a lot of personality, which I think it goes really well with the project. And I'm shocked because this text typeface was produced in 2 weeks. Yes. So I went back to Brushland. Yeah, with this is my darlings, but because they came from the brush more easily, and the process with these ones were faster. So I also reached for feedback from friends, and Ro Hernandez told me that she told me that my display looked a little bit well to behaved, and I was like, what? Me doing a well-behaved display? Never. Sorry. So I decided to increase the drama in this typeface, and but also not going really crazy because this is a family. They need to be on brand every style. So I just made it a bit more extra, a bit more dramatic. And now this is my Artemis Roman display. And I love it. I love it. It's like very dramatic, but it also keeps the brushiness of the brush. And I love it. It's so nice to work on this in big sizes. And it also really looks really nice. These are some. Now, going back a little bit to the Gothics, this is my Lovelies, but also this work was after the text Odyssey. So now it felt like I had brand new eyes, like I had laser eyes because I could see everything. For example, the text showed me that spacing was really important. So I applied everything that I learned from the text to the displays, and spacing is the key. So now I have my Artemis Gothic that I love it, and shout out to Ethan Cohen because he gave me amazing feedback. And this is my Gothic that I love it because they are really brushy. These are my mixas. And yeah, it's also really nice, and it's a pleasure to work with these ones. A little bit of flashy images because oh my god. Then I went back to the wicked twisted things that I was doing at the beginning. I traced them because now I had a base, like a consistent base for the Gothics. and I printed and I traced over them to make the rotations. So based on that, I traced them and I created this new Gothic twisted version. And this is the Gothic twisted, but also I went back a little bit and I made the texture one, but now with a bit of a different approach, which is like applying a new more vectorial style. I don't know, like a more abstracted brushiness. So this is the calligraphy. Then I use Adobe Illustrator to auto trace, but I wasn't liking it too much. So I made this drawing. And now I had a working prototype that it shows what I wanted to do since the beginning, which was the rotation of the brush, but also the movement. And I was wondering at the beginning if I should use the Hoi, the non-linear interpolation, but no Hoi was harmed during this experiment. This is just plain linear interpolation made with glyphs. So this was really simple and really nice, and I love it. Finally, I love it. And this is the Gothic texture. It's amazing. And the Gothics, they share the same width, so that makes them a duplex typeface. And this is a little bit of that. And yeah. And also I have the italics, which also were a delight to make them because they are amazing. I love them, the brushiness and everything. Sorry, I love it. I just love them so much, and it was really, really nice, and they show me also a lot of things. So this is the family, and this is Artemis, and this is how I link the displays on the brushiness of the endings of the brush. They all share the same thickness, so they are talking the same language. And yes, this is now my main mantra. And this is how they could be combined and everything. And I also have to shout out, I have to thank a lot to my teachers, my classmates, and also friends and colleagues that helped me creating this amazing project. And now I present you Artemis and the Queens of the Little Land. And this is like, I know this is a very weird typeface name, but it's a concept because I already had a really strong concept on the letters. So that gave me the freedom to have another concept for the visuals and everything. So I imagine a a rock punk K-pop inspired band. Also, Artemis is in honor of the NASA mission Artemis 2, because we're living in an amazing era. Yeah. So every style is a queen because yes. And they have debuted. They have debuted with the first CD, and now they're presented the vinyl, which is amazing. And this is the track list. And a little bit of this. They also, of course, they have merch, they have t-shirts, and they also got featured on this magazine where I interview them. And yeah, it was amazing. But also this was another part of the collaboration because I asked friends of the internet, type friends, to help me come up. I sent them my typefaces and I told them like, do whatever you want. And the result was amazing. And this is the process book, but also they helped me doing these amazing images. And these are a little bit of the results. I love them and I love you. Thank you so much. If you're watching this, I love you. And also big shout out to Tam who helped me gathering all of this. Love you. And yeah, and also big shout out for Antar Castro, oh my God, Antar Castro, who also helped me doing this 3D model that for this queen and sword, because every queen needs a sword, and I have this queen, so they needed a crown, and obviously if they have a crown, they also should have a sword. So shout out, because this was amazing. It's like touching the letters feels so amazing, and that is it. Thank you so much. And one last thing that I want to mention is that if you want to read my magazine and also the process book, I have linked on my Instagram. That's my Instagram. If you want to read everything and more of this process, there is the link with the magazine and everything. Thank you. Okay. Hold on. How do I?
Bravo, Adriana. Amazing work. So much enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Next speaker is Gintare. Are you ready?
Yes, I am. I will share my screen quickly. Can you see the screen and hear me?
Yes, looks good.
Great. So hi everyone, my name is Gintare, and I want to present to you my graduation project, which is a type family called ladder. A little bit of context. I come from Lithuania, where I grew up and lived before coming to Type Media. And this is quite a creepy image, but hold with me. In Lithuania, it's quite common to see a lot of folk art in your surroundings, especially a bit further from the city, in the natural surroundings. There are a lot of parks and forests which have a lot of wooden sculptures in them. So I grew up with these, with seeing a lot of these folk sculptures, and I always felt very drawn to them. And lately, I took a closer look into that, and I noticed how interesting is the lettering on these sculptures. It's not only very expressive in the shapes, but it's also very innovative in how the diacritics are carved. So here I highlighted some of the examples where the diacritics are connected to the base letters. Also, the punctuation is shifted up above the baseline. And all of this is done to create very tight line spacing, which also seems very familiar to me as a graphic designer, because every time you want to set headlines, tight, bold headlines in Lithuanian, you often come into these issues where the diacritics really get into the way of setting the lines close to each other. Sometimes they also collide. And this is not a very neat situation. It's very hard to find a solution to make it look nicer. It creates a very disbalanced spacing because horizontally it can be very tight and nice, but the vertical spacing becomes very loose and wide. While the languages that don't have diacritics don't run into this problem, the ones that have diacritics have this problem, and I wanted to find a way to solve it through type design. So my idea was to make a typeface with very compact and stylized diacritics, with the hopes that I could make this work in Lithuanian. So I started looking for shapes. First, I did a lot of hand drawing, just trying different approaches, which were inspired by wood carving. I tried different sketching techniques. I not only drew, but also cut out of paper. I also tried drawing only the counters, but not the shapes themselves. I tried different stylistic expressions, but then I settled on this sketch, which I really liked for its simplicity, but also subtle expressiveness. It was very tight, very dense, and had a lot of personality in it. From the very start of my design process, I always tried to sketch with diacritics on to test my idea from the very early stages. So I chose this drawing to work on, and I started building the base. So I digitized the lowercase and the uppercase characters. And then, yeah, these are the key characteristics of the typeface. The X height is very high. It's overall very bold. It has these triangular connections where a straight stem and a round shape meet together. It also has these very subtle flares on the stems, and overall it has a low contrast. So very soon I started working with the Lithuanian character set because it's quite a good base. We use 4 types of diacritics, which are both on top of the letters and also below. So I thought it would be a good start to test my ideas. So these are the accented characters that I added. And then I tried testing the uppercase. I came up with this idea to have a default set where the diacritics are regular and as expected, they are detached from the letters, and to have a separate stylistic set which has the compact diacritics, which allow you to set the lines very close to each other. So here you can see how the accented characters change when the stylistic set is off or on. This meant that all of these compact diacritics had to be drawn custom on each character, and that required a lot of small adjustments to make it visible and work nicely in the overall shape of the letter. And finally, I was able to test my idea to have a headline without diacritics and then add diacritics without changing the line spacing. So I knew that my idea, that my base was working, so I decided to expand into other languages. So that's how I proved my letters. I went language by language. I set the pangram into lowercase, uppercase with detached diacritics, and uppercase with connected. And I wanted to see how they work, how they actually work in a language, and if you can see the difference between the accented characters. So I went through multiple languages. And I chose to work with the ones that are spoken in this year's type media so that I would have someone to consult with when I had some doubts. And in the end, I ended up with compact diacritics for 10 languages. The typeface also has compact punctuation, which also comes in very handy in these situations where normally you would have a huge collision, but these solutions kind of make it work. So here's the overview of the display style. I added figures, I added punctuation, and here's the final character set. I expanded into quite a lot of European languages. And yeah, then it was time to grow this display style into a family. I wanted to have a much wider range in my project. So I thought, if I'm already working on the vertical compactness of my typeface, why not also try to make it compact horizontally? My idea was to add a very narrow style to the typeface, which kept the same structure, had the same character, but was very, very compact. I ended up doing the same character set for the narrow style as well. So everything is interpolatable, and the narrow style has the same tricks with stylistic sets as the wider style. And yeah, I ended up with a variable font, which goes from very narrow to slightly condensed. I was very happy in this display type world, and I wanted to explore it a bit further. And I thought about adding more expressiveness to the typeface through ornaments. I chose these 6 plants that grow in Lithuanian forests, and they are medicinal plants that you can make tea with. That's kind of a big thing in our culture. And I turned them into these ornaments. My idea with the ornaments was to draw them in a square shape and to have them mirrored. So once you type them next to each other, they could nicely connect into one continuous shape. And you can continue with this line on, and it creates a continuous line of ornament. You can do the same thing with all 6 ornaments. Next, I was thinking how to expand the family more, and should I add a text version to the family? I felt like I explored a lot in the display realm, and I wanted to add something new to the typeface, and I was really excited about an idea that I could use my typeface to create full-on functional layouts with display and text. So I took the same structure of the characters. I just made them much lighter, opened them up, and spaced them much wider to make a text typeface. But in some cases, the same construction didn't work in the text version, so I introduced a new one. And I ended up with this character set, which supports Lithuanian as well. It has figures, punctuation, and symbols. So here's how it looks a bit more close up. Then with the diacritics, I have 3 sets of figures, the lining proportional ones, the old style, and the tabular figures. And these are some of the symbols in the typeface, which I try to make as unusual as possible. And here is the final texture of the text typeface. I really tried to keep the narrow and tall character in the shapes, and surprisingly, it works in small text and is quite pleasant to read. Then, should I add italic? I said yes to that. I added an italic style, which follows the same width and weight, but has a different construction in some of the characters. My aim was to make a very limited set, just to have a good base for an italic to work on in the future. But later I expanded it a bit more because I really wanted to be able to set the scientific names of the plants that I drew in the ornaments in the italic. So that's the final character set for the italic. And here's how it looks a bit more close up. It blends in nicely into the overall texture of the Roman, but once you read it, it really jumps out of the page. So a quick overview of the typeface. I worked on 4 masters, 2 in display, one is slightly narrow, one is very narrow, and they became a variable typeface. And I also worked on a text version with a Roman and an italic. The display is very fun to design with because you can fit any word in any container. For example, here we have a very long word, but then you can fill the same space with shorter and even shorter words. Also, anything you design with a typeface instantly becomes playful and fun. And here are a few more layouts of the typeface in use. So here you can see how the display works together with the ornaments. I designed them to go nicely together. Here you can see how the display can be adjusted in width to match some elements in the design. In this case is the picture. One more example of the display together with the ornaments and overall all the styles together. And I'm really happy that I chose to work on a wide range of styles in this project because the typeface ended up being display and text, also light and heavy, upright and italic, wide and narrow, and also functional and decorative. And these are all the things that I wanted to try and learn at Type Media, so I'm really glad that I took on the challenge. And to wrap things up, here's the evolution from the very first sketch to the final result we have today. thank you everyone for listening, and thank you for all the teachers and classmates for this incredible year. And in case anyone wanted to say hi or talk about this project, here are my contacts. Thank you.
Thank you, Gintara.
Thank
Amazing work.
you.
The ornaments as well.
Oh, okay.
I feel there should be so many more ornaments.
There could be, for sure.
Now,
Thank you.
Gabriel, are you here? Yes, I see you.
Yes, I am.
Would you like to share your project with us?
I'm on it. Okay, wait a second. Hey, y'all. Can you see the full screen?
Yeah, looks good. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Then I start. So first of all, thank you, Eric and Petter, for this organization, and also Typelab for having us here. So I will also present my graduation project within the course of Type and Media, which is called Alves Serif. So before that, just a little thing about me. My name is Gabriel Dukic. I am a German graphic and type designer, and I studied at the FH Aachen, which is next to the border to the Netherlands and Belgium. And so then I came the way, like we all did, to The Hague to learn more about type design. And I think before a little bit about my background, I am mainly interested as a graphic designer in editorial contexts, especially for contemporary typesetting and layouts. And when I came to type media, I wanted to learn as much as possible as about designing text typefaces. And this is what my project here, my graduation project, is all about, is trying to understand more about when it comes to spacing, kerning, proportions, and weight. So I decided to also focus on this during this project. It started kind of like in the first term when I was working on a revival of the antique old style number 3 by Monotype. And next to the Roman, I also designed the italic, and I really liked the challenge of it because like I kind of had an understanding of how to design like the Romans, but when it comes to the italics, like also not just about the point structure, but also about the voices, it can be so different and can have a huge impact on the type family, which I also saw in another example when I looked more into the history of the typeface, which comes originally from the antique old style number 7 by Miller and Richards. And I kind of like how this typeface evolved, and many foundries did like different versions of it. And everyone also like kind of like gave them more flavor with the italic design and just kind of like give them a distinct voice to speak. So I was really interested also into that part of an italic design. From the beginning on, I knew that I wanted to design like a Roman, a italic companion, that I wanted to do like the bold. I wanted to do like a bold italic. And also something as a graphic designer that I really enjoy using is like a monospace typeface because of the flavor that it can give, and also like another hierarchy that it can get into the typographic systems. But before I started, I also looked a bit more into the history of the italics, about where do they come from, why were they invented, as they were originally not meant to be like a secondary text typeface. And also kind of like one of the starting point was this Paragon cursive from Robert Grandjean, because ultimately I really like this, the different slants in the different letters and kind of like this rhythm and the structure that it gives and the flavor to a text typeface. But I did question also myself, are there other ways to just bring more playfulness into my design? And also I was really questioning my own expectations for this project, like how much playfulness do I even want in this project? So I also sketched a lot with analog. It took me some time to also like, especially to use all these different shapes that I saw and kind of to bring them into a contemporary design and just try out different forms, different letter forms, different types of serifs, like a thin style, but I also mainly try to bring in like a very bold style, a bit more playfulness that I was looking for, working maybe on some icons, more words, also like maybe bringing like these italics that I saw into a sans serif design, also exploring this monolinearity that I will come back also later in this project. But also during all this time, I was also questioning myself, how can I use now these forms that I've seen without just simply replicating them? And also like, what does even contemporary mean in that context? And when I started, like after the first presentation, I kind of started originally with something which was this revival of Grandjean. But then I also talked more with the teachers and also like especially with Fritz Meyers, who suggested like different things that already makes a typeface more contemporary, like bringing in more of a rhythm by, for example, like having the same entrance and exit strokes of the N, for example. I was always trying to give it some quirky details here and there that I really enjoyed. And then with this draft, I also went like we all did on the Berlin trip where we went to the type critics at Czech Toycast and got feedback from many people. And also something that it really taught me was also the way how I talk about my typeface and how I sometimes talk about the visions that I have, but without really showing like a result like this, it can lead to this outcome. So then I really worked after that to kind of like sketch the ideas that I had for this type family. And this is an overview after the third presentation where I had this italic. I did a sketch for a bold italic, the Roman, and I was also working on the monospace that I was looking for. But after that, there was some to-dos on the list. It was first that I kind of like various details within my italic design. But as I was intending it to be like a text typeface, I was still asked to optimize it more for running text. I needed to fix my Roman because I was not happy with it yet. And I was also questioning if the monospace style that I was doing at that point is really the outcome that I want to be at this with this typeface family. And one of the things that really bothered me was the different voices that the italic and the regular at that moment spoke. And I mean, of course, like it's usual that like an italic and a Roman has like different voices to it. But I still wanted them to match because I had the feeling like while I was really simplifying my italic, I was kind of like putting more edges to the regular. And one of the ways was to introduce different bold terminals that I will show in the next slide. But also something that I really learned at this point is that I was really working on both of them at the same time, but not really simultaneously. I was kind of always like saw them as a separate thing. And also I was only trying to put details from my italic design into my Roman design. But at some point I also recognized that I should also do it the other way around. What I did with my Roman at first was also like kind of like rethinking different aspects, like giving it a bit more higher contrast because I also wanted to be usable in a bigger size. I kind of added also a little bit more liveliness by these kind of like Fleischmann-inspired bolt terminals. Also worked on the contrast to change them from this very static one to give a bit more dynamic. And then I was also thinking about the typewriter because I wanted it to be a monospace, but I was also really inspired by these originally typewriter cells that you find, which are very this monolinearity. They have these heavy bold terminals. I really enjoyed this light italic from the IBM Selectric typewriter. And so I thought it would be nice to sketch at first also like with a pen and just try this monolinearity, bring like also this is, for example, like where I tried the Count model to bring it into this monospace and also into this monolinearity. And in the end, I decided also to kind of like rework the underlying construction and also like put the ones that I already introduced into my Roman, bring them into the typewriter style and to make them more work together as a type family. So here's an overview after the fourth presentation. It was 1 month before the final presentation. So I decided to do the Roman, the bold, the italic, and the typewriter. But there was still many to-dos, like also especially to rethink my italic because I still introduced some different unexpected details, especially because like the overall feeling of the typeface became very conventional. And to take a position, I also needed then also to get more into the production of reworking some of the contrast, maybe some of the proportion issues that was still there. And of course, everything else, like the process book, like everything that comes with the exhibition, also the final, everything we need to hand in the end. So I decided to get rid of those details that I enjoy, that I really like on its own working, bringing them a bit closer, as you can see at the bottom, more to conventional forms. And one of the reasons is that because I do believe that you are allowed to break the rules, but I also think that before you do that, you really need to know them. And I mean, I was still learning. I'm still about this designing and the rules of italics. So I listened to my teachers and it really helped to bring closer what I was looking for, to bring the italic and the Roman more closer to each other and really make them work together as a family. So then I also expanded the character set during the workshops with Alexandra Samulenkova. She gave really great feedback on different aspects, also especially because coming as a German, we don't use that many diacritics. But it was really nice also the talk with my other fellow students to just about their languages and maybe some details they would like to have and how you can improve the shape. So I did like the character set for the regular. I did the same for the italic. Here you can also see like different languages that's provided by the typeface in the end, and the diacritics and how they look in the running text and the texture. Also, especially working here together, the Roman and the italic. I have the same for the bold, even though I intended it not to do that at first, but also started to say, okay, if I want to rework or like I want to continue working on it, it would be nice to also have like a starting point for the future. And I did a limited character set for my typewriter style, even though at least as a German, I make sure that I can typeset German and of course English. So here's the overview that I presented at the final presentation. I think it was 3 days ago at the Thursday. So we have the regular, the bold, the italic, and the monospace. These are the sources that I used. And there was also this one question about naming the fonts. And I was really thinking a lot about it. And I do think that a name of a font should sound first and foremost good. And also like one of the things that during tech media, I think it can be very overwhelming, as any other study can be. And next to trying to do sport and try to go out with friends, I also often really look at pictures of my sister's dog, who's actually called Chewy, but his first name is Alves. And therefore I decided to name my typeface family in the end Alves, for this little boy. So we have Alves Serif. It's the first version now. As I said, we have these styles because like the regular and the bold are interpolatable. We also have the medium style, so overall 5 styles. Here you can see a little bit of typesetting with the typewriter style, for example. Also how the bold and the regular work together. The italic or the Roman, how they work together in a text and how they really manage to like bring the same voice that I was looking from the beginning on in the end to both of them. We have the bold version. And yeah, if you want to see more about the project and also about the process behind this, feel welcome to join our graduation exhibition that starts next week on the Wednesday. They can see all of our specimen books and the process books. And I think we talk a lot more in there also about the ups and downs during this project. Yeah, so I think at the end of the day, if I want to continue, it's also the question like, how would I continue? And I think at first I would take a little break of this project, maybe like for 1 or 2 months to just really come back with fresh eyes. And then I think it's time to just rework some details within the family and also to expand the character set. And of course, also the styles, because I got throughout this project, because I wanted to focus on the quality instead of the quantity. I got rid of some styles, but it would be nice to, of course, work more on the bold italic now, or especially on the typewriter italic, which I think can also be a really another depth to the project. And how they relate with the italic would be very interesting to see that in the future. So thank you, dankjewel, und das Dankeschön. Also to everybody, to my teachers, and also, but especially to my fellow students, that we all work really nice together. And it was very good to have these very different voices within the group and just hear about different positions that I learned throughout this whole year. So thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel. Amazing work. Will the dog come and visit the exhibition?
You will be at the ceremony.
Excellent. I posted a link to the KBK graduation show information. It opens on July 2, which I think is Thursday. So, yes, for anybody wanting to visit all of these students. Next up is Nu. Are you here? There you are.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you share your screen?
Yes. Oh no. Oh, I think hopefully it's working.
Looks good.
Can you see my pages?
Yes.
And it does switch, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, great. Then hello, I'm Null, and my project is called Tris, or Trice, or anything other than Trice, really. I picked a name without thinking about English. It's a set of 6 styles, Roman and 2 italics, which basically are used for a formal text setting. So I focused this year on creating a relatively good Latin character support. I've been trying to complete as much of the Coberlin Latin S as I could, and making basic features that would make it suitable for book setting. So the same character set with the diacritics and all the extra characters like the Schachwesses and the Icelandic and Polish and whatnot is extended through all 6 of the sources. So how did this happen? I started with this idea of making just a typeface, but one other thing, which is, I realized later, how I start every typeface. So this will eventually die. I wanted to focus on diacritics. I wanted to try interpolating italics. I wanted to try interpolating a monospace. I wanted to try designing interpolation. So one of my ideas was to create deliberately very crazy diacritics that I would then have to solve my design around. I've had this idea of writing a little tool for designing nonlinear interpolation. And that ended up being a little bit too much to do in the time. And I ended up drawing a double set of italics, which is really what stuck with me for this. I then started getting a little bit curious about italic parameters and making a typeface starting with italics. So I started making just a bunch of sketches, seeing what I can do, making some ridiculous ideas, then some slightly less ridiculous ideas, and eventually stabilizing, trying to see what I really want to work on. Which kind of ended up with this idea of a typeface for complicated typography. I still, at this point, am clinging to this idea of having a whimsical side hustle for my typeface, but the core of it is to have basically just nice complicated typography. So I spent a month from basically February to March, or actually March to April, trying to complete as much of the characters as I could. So I made a Roman basically basic Latin and italic A basic Latin. And I started working on this second italic, just trying different ideas and arriving at ridiculous places. And I started trying to add swashes. This was at that point the whimsical side hustle. I also started coding a little bit. I made this probably the best script I've written in this in my time here so far. Is this little live preview thing for how a contour would look like if it was drawn with orthogonal extreme points, because I was drawing a lot of italic O's and a lot of, in general, I had a lot of diagonal points. So I wanted to see what happens if you rotate some counters without having to stick to the either proper point structures or modifying anything at an angle is a hassle. So I just wanted a nice way to rotate. And that idea, the whole typeface kind of started getting more and more serious and less whimsical. So I wanted a font that would be useful for typesetting manuals and which would itself need a manual to use, which having 2 italics, of course, not a very typical typographic context. I spent the next month trying to refine and adding drawings, trying to make my shapes a little bit more human. So far, they've been quite rigid, as you can see on the left. And then I started just reducing straight lines. At some point, I realized also that I never really designed with straight lines, so I was very happy that at least it stuck in the Roman. But in the italic, they had to go. And I started equipping it with a set of diacritics and trying to make all the diacritics nice. So from the start, I wanted this typeface to be good at supporting languages. So I designed especially the A specifically to host the ogonic, because I am very picky about what an ogonic can be on an A. And then I started expanding it. I added support for the Lithuanian ogonic as well with the I. I'm still. I've asked Gintarė, our Lithuanian classmate, if this is acceptable, and she found it okay. But I still feel like this is either going to get me banned from Lithuania or get me a citizenship. And then I started also thinking about what exactly I'm doing. I've been seeing this image of a lot of diacritics next to one another a lot. And at some point in the past, I would always try to make all of these look even. And then I realized that this is really something I see as a type designer, and nobody else ever sees this. So I started trying to focus in on smaller things. And that meant taking some sacrifices and sacrificing the beautiful image of having a lot of diacritics side by side. So for example, when having a bold weight, the acute doesn't grow as much as the dot accent, because the dot accent I would want in Lithuanian again to match the I dot, and the acute just doesn't really need that much. So I started introducing inconsistencies for the sake of having the languages themselves make slightly nicer words. And I think what has been directing me a lot this past few months is this idea that the purpose of any system is its outcome. And I was thinking, well, what is its outcome if I try to make all the diacritics the same? I guess I can pat myself on the back as a type designer because I have this beautiful image of all these diacritics sorted in alphabetical order. But then another outcome of my system is that some languages look unnecessarily worse. So I decided to take the sacrifices and consistency and really focus on having just making nice words in a variety of languages. Uh, so uh, so in the end, I dropped the one other thing. I dropped the whimsical side hustle for now. I've decided that I want my typeface to talk a little bit about OpenType, but at that point, I still didn't know exactly uh, what I want to even say because my font was pretty simple. It just had a swash feature that was not really that exciting. Or maybe that is exciting visually, but not exactly technically. Uh, and since then, I've decided to just set up my font to handle OpenType a little bit better. And because it needs a manual well, it doesn't need a manual, but it's the idea of it is that it would come with a manual. I thought, well, that kind of takes care of the whole talking about OpenType thing. I think it's just dramatically underused. So in setting it up, I initially just had 6 files for all my sources, and the features were also contained inside the files, and I started just taking them out. So first thing I did was to make the features only have the same feature file for both my Roman and bold, and basically for the base style, bold style, because these need to interpolate. There was no point in maintaining these separately. And then I started thinking, well, actually, sometimes there's shared information in there. So, for example, I have a small caps that is shared between italic A and Roman, and eventually maybe also italic B. Or I have the same ligatures for italic A and italic B, but the different ones for the Roman. So I started splitting these off. And for the small caps, I thought, well, I should also split off the groups so that they're a bit easier to edit, and maybe write a script to write the groups for me. Then I started adding some of these into the access all alternates, which I just thought was convenient for typesetting stuff in InDesign. I split off the access all alternates file initially because I wanted it to be to be shared between some things, but it ends up being different for all files. So and yeah, it just ended up ballooning and getting more complicated. Like all the fonts have the same numbers, features, and all the fonts have the same kind of smart behaviors, like being able to substitute the X for multiply. I was just trying to build something convenient for myself. And then came time to export the thing, which was probably the most difficult time of the project because FontMake was not having anything that I was having. And everything that ended up produced ended up being wrong in some way. I settled on the idea of 2 design space files and a script to correct all the naming information. So right now the font is a little bit of a tornado, but it also is very ready to get some fancy features. I think the next thing up for me is to write a little custom mark feature that moves the diacritics depending on context. Sometimes that's a little bit nice. And then I added an ornament font. I did not need it, but at some point I wanted ornaments. I ended up making this fence ornament font because I was recreationally typesetting some bookmarks with my classmate Lisa. So I thought, well, I should have an ornament for that. Lisa's font had so many ornaments, I was getting jealous. But generally, I focused on basically the core of building a text typeface that looks like what I want a text typeface to look like. The result is 3 variable fonts. They are all basically doing the same thing, except some bold styles are current a little bit less. And I just started trying to typeset things with it and see if my original ridiculous idea of having double italics makes any sense whatsoever. I typeset my process book in it, and I think this was also where I really started enjoying this. Because if I tried to pitch this idea to myself a few months ago, I would really dismiss it out of hand because 2 completely different italic archetypes have really no precedent being together. Roman and italic is, of course, a different, completely different archetypes as well, but they work on a basis of conventions. This made no sense, but as I started typesetting with it, I could find places where I really want this used. And that was, I think at that point, I started being able to talk about my project without feeling like I'm saying nonsense. And then I started also giving the font to typographers who are much better typographers than me, so that I can see it in use in nicer settings. I started doing some ridiculous things like typesetting cascading footnotes. I tried typesetting various languages just to make sure that it does what I claim it does, uh, and just playing around with it. I think this is really the biggest thing I've discovered over the course of this whole project, that what is practical is just a matter of what is at hand. If you have 3 neutral, regular weight voices, you can find a way to use them. And after they're there, they no longer need to convince you of the need for their existence through argument, and then you can just work on them. So this is the result. It's called Teresa, and that's all. Just thank you for all my wonderful classmates and teachers. You have made this a great year. I will stop sharing.
No, thank you. Did you have a reason for the cascading footnotes, or did you come up with text where you needed them?
I have needed this in my process book because at some point I was quoting Dutch type, And I realized that the footnote there also had a little subthread of, well, Kish's biographer was doubting that this was actually happening. And then I realized I don't want to put this in one footnote. I want the continuation to be optional. And that's where that kind of happened.
Amazing. Did you invent the name for it though?
Yeah, I don't. It came to me in a dream. Maybe sometimes, maybe someone else at one point came up with this name before me. But
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one up, Ayaka Ito, are you ready? Yes, you are.
Okay, let's go. Hello, my name is Ayaka. I'm originally from Japan. I've been working in New York for some time, and I'm here now. At Type Media. So today I'd love to present to you my typeface EDA. It means branch in Japanese, and it's also named after my collaborator and poet Zoe Branch. And EDA is like edamame, like branch beans, but like EDA, just branch. So before Type Media, one of my hobbies was always to just draw a lot on my notebook. I really, this sort of stuff actually I've never shared before, but these are just sketches that I really loved. Like whenever I see something inspiring on the streets or on signage, I draw them with my Sharpie and whiteout. And so I kept them to myself. But every time I wanted to try to digitize them, I always came to a problem that everything I made digitally became very sterile, very cold. And I didn't understand why I couldn't keep the warmth of my drawing into my digital drawings. So really, my quest for this year as a whole in Type Media was to figure out how can I bring back warmth into my digital typefaces and letters. And one of the themes that I had throughout the year was also to just play a lot with letters, make letters in every way, shape, or form. And so this was from a tufting workshop, making monoline letters with like the tufting yarn, just like creating the rough edges, which was really fun. From like stone carving, I used a flat nib brush to draw the letter first, and then stone carved it, so it kept the warmth of my drawing based off of my sketches. Or like also recreating that tufting experience digitally and seeing how the dots could create that yarn texture that I really loved so much. So in the end of all of this exploration, I thought, well, actually, what if the point of all of this is to keep the roughness and the curves in my typeface? Because all this time I thought whenever I take my scans that I would just clean them up. And I basically lost all of its life out of the letters. So I had this in the back of my mind, but I needed to figure out what I wanted to draw for this project. So I'm not very good with concepts. So I thought, okay, let's just start drawing everything and anything that I'm inspired by, and then think later for what the concept will be. So I drew a bunch, but yeah, starting from inspirations from Art Nouveau movements that influenced Japanese packaging design that I really loved back in the 20s, to like flourished logos inspired from, I visited the Herb Llewellyn Center in Cooper Union and looked at a lot of Tony Despino's letterings, which was so beautiful. And so it really just drew anything that I really liked style-wise. But really what unlocked my final project was my writing practice. Throughout Type Media, everyone comes with very beautiful handwritings, and I thought, okay, I really want to get better at my handwriting. It's because my handwriting is shit. So I practiced a lot of chancery penmanship, with my mechanical pencil, and looked at a lot of these references. And this particular reference I really, really love by Boschon. Just something about the melodicness of the letters. It just really, yeah, called for me. And so I took, so the reference uses a goose quill. I do not know how to use a goose quill. So I used all of my pens and anything I could possibly find, including pointed pens, flat brushes, anything, marker pens, sign pens, and just practiced a lot of chancery writing. And yeah, and I also used my mechanical pencil at 5mm height and just kept on practicing the writing. And then from there, I thought, oh, what if I just blew this up, see what happens. And so blowing it up at like 8 times more than that, I think, you could really see the texture, but you could see just the general construction of the letter forms. And I thought, perfect, maybe this is a perfect foundation for me to use my flat nib brush and then create a typeface out of it. So I did a lot of practice. I've never used a flat nib brush before type media, but I went all out this year and just practiced every day. And so after drawing a lot of letters, a lot of just random words, anything that came to my mind, I took all of these, scanned them, and then reordered the letters and looked at them just as a type designer's eyes, and started picking out the ones that I really liked. And then from there, I started digitizing them and then put them into a system. And already I had a foundation for my italic, which I really loved. It had that consistency of the penman and then the playfulness of the like references. And so I thought I was on a good track. But these are just italics, and I thought, okay, well, I actually really need a Roman to see how the italics would function in all of this. So I saw a really beautiful example from the 1699 English gravestone carving from Nicolette Gray's book. And I really love just the lightness of the letters and open counters. So I thought, okay, maybe there's something in there that I can start drawing. So I did my Sharpie drawings of looking at these letters at different weights and just made a foundation for like what my masters could potentially look like in drawing form, and then started digitizing the letters from there. And there I could finally understand what my italics was doing, understanding what the angle I wanted it to be versus my Roman and how it interplayed with each other, and looking at like little details like entry strokes, end strokes, just to understand how they all come together as a typeface's personality. And during the Roman exploration, that's also when I realized that by putting in these little tiny curves in the vertical stems, for example, it gave that just a little bit of the humanity that I was hoping for in Roman letters or digitized letters in general. Because before I had just relied on the fact that vertical stems are straight, so I just kept them straight, or horizontal lines straight. And these were the little fine details that I really craved to understand. So through writing and through practicing all of this, I was able to get there from my initial question. And also because my background is in branding, I learned how to space letters like a logo. So of course, once that came into long form text, it was so tight, you could not read the text. So I had a lot of help from my colleagues and teachers to space and add so much side bearing. I think I added like 40 side bearings at some point because it was just way too tight. And at some point, I had to write a letter to the IRS about my taxes. And I thought, okay, why not I try my typeface and switch it around, see if I like it. And I did, which was a great sign. So that meant I was on a great track with my typeface. And at this point, I didn't have my numbers. So thankfully, my privacy is kept here. But that gave me the energy to draw my numbers. So that was good. And then so there, I think my heaviest weight was my hardest challenge, honestly, because up until this point, I had been using my flat nib brush to do all of this contrast. But at some point, the heavier the letters became, all of this sort of just didn't work. And by that, I mean that like by the translation contrast, the fatter it becomes, it sort of loses that like elegant like feeling that I wanted from my Roman. And so I also talked to my teachers about this, and that, yes, so like as the fatter I wanted the letters to become, in this case, this was like quite heavy, really. I was trying to minimize the white space as much as possible. It has to end up becoming a little bit more of an expansion contrast instead of a translation contrast. And it's sort of, in the end, it's a merge of both. But that concept I just did not understand for a very long time. So here, this is an example of leaning into expansion. So it loses the feeling of what my regular looked like. So really on the bold, you're not designing the black areas, you're designing the negative space. The white space is what really brings the personality of the heavier typeface. And so I'd have days where I'd be working on letter B, and somehow it'd get worse over the time since I started, like after 8 hours. And then I was like, okay, forget it, next day. But so one thing that really did help was so initially my top is March. This is my initial sketches. The middle is April, when I was trying to go for the heaviest weight possible. And then by May, I went through more of an extra bold weight. So I lightened up the weight overall, and I was actually able to achieve a much more consistent, cohesive personality in my typeface. So I understood that by going too heavy, you lose that sort of initial vision of what your Roman is doing. So it is a compromise. So together, once I had my extra bold and my italics and Roman, I was able to use our RMX scaler and then start to change proportions, weights, and spacing to make everything a bit more cohesive as a family. So I was really happy to see how this was working in text form. But what is this typeface for? So I wanted to, as a branding designer, coming from the branding background, I wanted to understand the usage and sort of the design aesthetic around this typeface. So I've been working with my collaborator, Zoe Branch, who's an amazing poet. And back in 2024, we had started working on this poetry about flowers blooming and sprouting, blooming, wilting, and seeding, and how this can relate to human experiences. And I had paused on this poetry book to go to type media, but then I thought at some point, like, actually, this is a really great use case for my typeface. So why don't I bring this back into the project? And I had also worked with a photographer, Eileen Sun, and the stylist, Alice Lam, and then Laura Moan, who assisted us with the photo shoot. And we shot all of these beautiful photographies. So I thought this is actually perfect. I can merge the two worlds together and make a poetry book at the end of the year. I had also this sketch that I had drawn with like ribbons and drawing a Japanese type. And I thought, okay, well, actually, I really love this idea of ribbons and flowers coming together with the types. Like, is there something I can bring to all of this together? And also, we had Arabic workshop with Christian, who, and for my exploration, I was trying to understand, like, because Arabic is a connected letter form, is it possible to make it into a stencil, and is it still possible to make it all legible? So all of these ideas sort of came all together, and I wanted to create perhaps like a stencil typeface world as part of EDA with like ribbons and flowers, and really go into this like cute little girly world. And I had to use my flattened brush to try all of these swashy letters and ribbony like capitals, and yeah, just exploring what it could all be. And so as part of the idea of doing a stencil, I printed out my italics and just started using white on and cutting out the connections. And that was really easy. It was like a 20-minute exercise, but it already gave me an idea for what the stencil could look like. So I thought, perfect. Maybe I'll do this as like another master. So initially my stencils were quite complicated. Like I was trying to go with the flow of the calligraphic pen, but at the end of the day, it was so much better to just cut it simply and just make everything simple. And altogether, it just helped create this more cohesive, legible typeface as a stencil. So I thought this was a really fun addition to EDA. And through Celine's class, where we looked at a lot of imagery of things that we love and visual references for how this world could come together, I got really into these vintage romantic covers and this like coquette world. And I thought, perfect, why don't I just bring all of this together? I needed a break from letters anyway, so I took a day to work on like a bunch of ornaments and just drawing. I love drawing little tiny dinky things. So I thought, why not I bring all of this together into my typeface? And so together, I just had so much fun creating all of these like layouts and designs and the poetry, and yeah, also breaking a lot of rules with spacing and yeah, like the weird A and N ligatures, like why not? And yeah, and then also in long form text, I really enjoyed how all of this came together with photography and borders. So went really all out in this world. And as a parallel exercise, I was thinking in the back of my head about the textures on the letters. So I went through a coding exercise where I wanted to recreate the tufting into coding and drawbots and see how this could all come together. And then I had an idea of like, well, what if the two masters had the same amount of circles, and then they could interpolate and keep these textures intact. And so I had the concept and I thought, okay, maybe try this in Drawbot and explore and see what happens. And then once I had a base, I brought in a collaborator, Benjamin Boyko, to help me with creating an extension in glyphs. It's still work in progress, but it works for now. And called Moko Moko in Japanese, it's called Fluffy. And so we like looked at a lot of ways of distributing the points and making it all cohesive, because sometimes like a swashy A, for example, it has a long segment length versus like an N, which is more compact. So we try to find out ways of figuring out how we can make these lines circles more distributed evenly. And then this all brought back to the poetry book because part of the poetry is about how the soil comes together and blossoms the flowers, and then it seeds away back and disintegrates into the soil. So one of my teachers had a suggestion of like, well, what if you brought that concept back into your type? What if your type could disintegrate? And I thought that's perfect. So I could make like a disintegrating variable axis and create what I called it a soil and seed master. And there the soils will come together to create the letters, and then it disintegrates like seed in one master. So together, all of this, I love this animation. It feels like it's like dandelions blowing in the air, but like it created this really beautiful visual poetry. In addition to the meaning of Zoe's poetry, so I really enjoyed this. And so yeah, and this is an example of a flat graphic of the poetry. So let everything end, then begin. Let bones become dust. Uh, and then become soil, become seed. So all kind of came together, I thought, really beautifully. And you can make the randomness like to 0. So that means you can make a uniform texture. So I can create like a lace textured type as well, which was really fun. And then last but not least, because of my Japanese background, I've always dreamt about doing Japanese CJK. Uh, yeah, letters. Like I do a lot of lettering personally, but like not as a typeface. So it was a really scary area to be in. But thankfully, Words of Type community offered this really rare moment to learn Japanese, introduction to Japanese type design. So I took that on a heartbeat. It was during May and for 4 weekends. And yeah, so in order to prepare for that in February, I think every single day for 1 sheet a day, I practiced again how to write Japanese hiragana, katakana, and kanji again with like a calligraphy pen, just to get myself reacquainted with everything. And during the class, like we started with the skeleton, and we did all the 3 scripts all at once, this one phrase. And yeah, worked on it until the skeleton became in a good place. I did a lot of brush practice to understand the weight contrast because that's very different from how Latin letters work. And then reapplied this into the drawing, pencil drawing. And from there, we took a few classes to refine those drawings until we got to a good place with the proportions and everything. And then I would take the final drawing at the bottom and then digitize that. And I got to learn how to work on using the M-box and understand scaling with Latin and combining everything together. So this is such a wonderful, yeah, class to be able to get into CJK for me. So yeah, the current state of EDA, I'm happy to present that this is very much a work in progress. But it really provided me a platform to play. And that was really the biggest thing I came to Type Media for. So I have a standard set from light to extra bold masters and italics. Some of them I admittedly are still in drawing phases, but I wanted to keep them here as a vision. And then I also have my seated style, my stencil style, and then my Japanese kana master. And so these are some of this, this is the regular, the Roman, the kana, Roman, italic, extra bold masters, seated master, the ribbon stencil master. And then here I'll just go through just examples of what the poetry book will be. And this is something I will exhibit at the graduation show as well. So yeah, really, this is the light master, and then the italics. So I really love just breaking every rule, like not going into horizontal text formats, just everything on a curve, which breaks all the spacings. I'm sure I'm gonna have to look at this later at some point in time, but and the decaying. And then we also are working on our exhibitions right now in our books. And yeah, so because I have a stencil, I've been stenciling a lot of papers and covers. So this is just a stencil print that hopefully I'll have prepared for the graduation show as well. And then we're working on curtains and printing and silk screening and all this fun things. So yeah, I'm really so thankful for the teachers and all of my classmates for creating such a positive and encouraging space for me to play this year. And I really couldn't have made this typeface without everyone's support. So I'm really gonna miss this year. in this classroom. And so I'm going to end this note on a let everything end, then begin from Zoe's poetry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ayaka. Lucia, are you there?
Hello,
There you are.
there I am.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Hello, I'm Lu. I'm from Zagreb, Croatia, where I studied visual communication. And during my bachelor studies, I was introduced to typography and type design. And even before type and media, during those bachelor studies, I realized that what I'm really interested in is visualizing and bringing to life the hidden parts of our minds and our talks. I'm really interested in using letters and letter forms as some kind of expression. First, to express my mental state, my thoughts that I'm hiding from others, and as well as things that my peers and my colleagues are also hiding. So I really want to bring those hidden messages and game between shown and hidden through type and type design. And that exploration started during my bachelor studies, and now I brought it to type and media during first semester when I was trying to visualize those emotions and those experiments through different processes and different projects. And beside the emotions and games between hidden and shown, I'm also interested and I really like looking at everyday things in my environment through the lens of type designer. So I really like finding letters and letter shapes through everyday objects. And this is basically the base of my whole project. So I started sketching some letters and I quickly realized that I really, really like the game between something that is legible, that is actually hiding illegible thing or other way around. I really like making letters that in some cases can be seen as little art pieces. So I explored those ideas and those letter shapes to different contrasts, different contexts, and different sketches. And at some point, I drew this. And while talking to my colleagues, peers, and professors, I quickly realized that these letters are mostly for myself, that I was actually doing something that was pleasing to me, but not usually useful and legible to others. So I needed to bring some kind of a reference in order to bring those little art pieces into something legible and recognizable and used for others. And I realized that this letter D was the most legible and recognizable letter and letter shape out of all these letters. And the reason behind it was because it represented the black letter constructure. So I decided to dive deep into black letter, especially Fraktur, and to use it as my reference. How can I bring these little art pieces into something legible and something that is looking like a text and letters? So during the process of digitizing those sketches, I quickly realized that having a typeface, a variable typeface that can show the game and the switch between legible and illegible through different stages of hiding and showing some parts of the details and letters can be really useful and really interesting. And I also was trying to find the systematic approach to this project. I was trying different things. I first started with the system that actually was without any system. I decided to use each individual letter as the unique piece of its own and refused to use the repetition, but that was really time consuming. So I tried to turn the other way around and seek repetition and system as a friend, and that actually improved the quality of my project and typeface. I was also trying to decide what's the smallest point size and what's the biggest point size of my letters, and trying to see how letters can be seen in different contexts. Alongside explorations with lowercase letters, I needed to pay attention to how can I make the transition between something legible and something crazy and illegible, and what are the possibilities of details and elements that I can bring to. So I was quickly shifting my focus to just doing something completely random. I try to let my hand and my mind roam freely on the paper and just trying to come up with any different ways to make letters be shown as something else, anything but letters. But during that process, I realized that I was getting a bit lost between my urge to make letters and make the same letters not letters anymore. So I decided to, in everyday life, bring some kind of exercise that will draw me away from my project in order to just relax for a bit and in order to let my mind pay attention to something else. And I saw help through reading. And I then connected small library of books and movies that I was reading through Type and Media, especially this project. And I realized that the one thing that connected all those media that I was consuming alongside my letters were actually main characters that represents that duality, that represents the individual that masks their true form in order to be seen as the everyday human being, as the part of the everyday life and society. So then I came up with the idea that maybe alongside introducing black letter, I can also use humanistic forms as references to improve that idea of showcasing the duality. I could use humanistic forms for the easiest legible and recognizable letters and to represent them as the true self and the self of the letters and characters that the system can actually read and process, and slowly going to the black letter forms that are actually the self the system can process and can actually read and use, and to make the bridge between those two. So I made a little to-do list and I wanted to make to bring the humanistic and everyday part of my letters into something more useful and legible. And the reason why I wanted to use the humanistic form was also because we are using the humanistic forms in everyday life and we are used to it and we know how to read them quite easily and quickly, while the black letter is not part of the everyday life and we still need some time in order to process and to understand those letters. And I really love the duality of the letters in those two concepts. So I decided to make one text style and 2 or 3 display styles of typeface. The text style being referenced as the humanistic form and the display referencing the hybrid between the humanistic and the black letter. And I also needed to test my letters and shapes in different contexts with typography and graphic design just to see how can I use those letters. But I was still not quite yet satisfied with the things that I've made so far. So I really dug deep back into my previous sketches. And I was also trying to look at the things that I have already made so far through the different perspective and realized that all those shapes and forms that I made with all those details that I paid so much attention actually at the end of the day look really, really similar. So I really needed to bring back the creativity from the previous sketches in order to really showcase that contrast and that unexpected turn from the legible to something illegible. Alongside this, I decided that maybe interpolation and animation can also bring something good to this project. And I was also planning to how can I bring life into my letters through animation. So this is my first time ever introduction to animation. I'm still new to it, but this is really an amazing way of improving my skills and the quality of this project to actually be able to see letters move and to visualize the emotions and pictures that I really wanted to visualize. Yes. I was also trying to see what colors can do with these animations in this project, but this was just scratching the surface. And because I'm a huge perfectionist and because I tend to lose all of my focus in smallest details, I really needed to stood my ground and finally make some decisions and stick to them. So now I can introduce you with this work in progress project, the typeface called Unknown, with one text style named Unknown Mask that is based on the humanistic form, and two display styles, Unknown Sleep and Unknown Reveal, that are gradually moving away from the text style and from the humanistic forms. And I really like the idea of this typeface being used in both analog and digital world. I really like the game between the legible and illegible and the ability of showcasing that transition of those letters being used in everyday text as well as being used in not so everyday text in special occasions. And yes, this is the sketch of the possibilities of the animation. And what I really like about the animation part of this project is actually the visualization of those emotions that I was talking about at the beginning of the project. Those hidden parts and hidden sides of people's minds, those emotions, those thoughts, and those approaches of everyday life. I really like the feelings that we can bring to those letters. So what started as my personal way of trying to visualize and bring some emotions to the surface ended up with this project that can be used for situations that can help others to show those hidden parts of their thoughts and hidden parts of the project. And for that, I can only thank Type and Media friends, my peers, my colleagues and professors for giving me space, giving me perfect environment to actually dive very, very deep into this project and into my thoughts and to bring this whole project to life and to be able to continue working on this typeface. So if you have any questions and comments, feel free to reach out, and thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're looking at Franci. Are you here? You're sharing. Very good.
Yes, I'm
Let's get on.
sharing my screen.
Works.
Nice. Good. Welcome everyone, and thank you for having me. I'm Franziska Hauber. I am from Germany, and I will guide you through the process of my font blooming, which started with handwriting and texture, which I had really in focus. So I was looking through different kind of inspiration. For example, I had this letter from Emma Hauck to her husband, and it's a love letter, but you cannot read it, but you can understand. And also sources like shorthand, which are meant to be read, but yeah, most of the people cannot read it. For me, it looks quite interesting in texture. Also, I'm inspired by graffiti, which I'm trained to read, and always when I see something like this, I want to read it. But here I don't see, I cannot decode, so maybe there is nothing to read. Maybe there is, I don't know. But also sources like Civilité seemed very interesting for me. And yeah, what I found interesting in these models were the different changes of weight and different stroke width, then the different angles and the big swashes. Found very interesting that yeah, there is so much going on, but still in text it looks yeah, amazing. So I took a brush and I wanted to replicate some of these swashes and letters. And what I liked about these brush examples is that you can really see how the brush and the paper are creating this texture, and you can see the writer on the paper. And yeah, this is the big question I ask myself, is how can I preserve humanity and the craft and the handwritten impact in a digital typeface without copying calligraphy? So my first attempt of replicating this in a digital way was to make a character. These are two axes, and there is interrupted interpolation going on. So yeah, I just took this sketch and digitized it with so much rectangles, and there's so much work and so much clicking. So yeah, I thought it was a nice exploration, but I will not go on with this. Also, I was looking on Courant, for example, and Citolin, and there what I found very interesting is the rigidity in the X height, that the strokes are very similar, but then the ascenders and descenders have these swashes that they seem like they can do anything. So what I did next is make the first digitization of a digital version with inspired by Courant. So the blobs were the easiest shape I could think of in digital, which was good that I can edit it very fast. And then I had these rectangles that connect the blobs and make the letter readable. So I could do very quickly some samples of text and see how, when I change the blobs, what will happen in text. Then I also very quickly made a first digitization of a variable font where you have different ascenders and descenders. They grow and they shrink. So this is on a website where when I scroll, I change the line height and also change the ascenders and descenders. Next, I wrote a letter also with the inspiration of the Courant, this rigidity, but also, just with my normal handwritten impact. And what I found very interesting there is the way of how I explore the ascenders and descenders is really dependent on what was there on the paper before. So if I increase the line height, I have more space for the ascenders and descenders to explore. But also, if I have written a letter before that has a very big swash, I would place the next, make the next very tiny. And there are some, I asked my question, like, how can I translate this into the digital world? And of course, there are some solutions for that, which are in open type features. Where you could say, okay, when I have two or more characters that are the same, then use an alternative. So then I had another style and also tried this animation thing with this style. But then I also thought, like, the ascenders and descenders here, they are very big and swashy, but it can grow more, it can go more swashy, and there's more possible. So I sketched some of the ascenders and descenders where I thought, oh, this is maybe an interesting way of doing it. I called it later, or Peter called it the noodle soup style. So I had these noodle soup characters, and also made an animation of how to get from the normal character to the very big one. This is also done with an interrupted interpolation, which I also tried out before. So what I had then is, back then, was one blobby style, a blobby style in a thin version. Then I tried another handwritten style. I had these noodle soup style, And yeah, then I had all these styles and compared them, and I was quite lost where I should continue, because my goal was to make an animation within this the typeface, and have different styles in one typeface that animates, and I didn't know where to start, and yeah, how to come there. Yeah. In the meanwhile, I was looking at some old family letters. On the left, you can see a letter which my aunt has written to her grandmother. So it's my great-grandmother, and she asked her to write down all her stories she always tells us, so we could read it. And I found this interesting first because I cannot read the writing of my great-grandma anymore. You can see it on the right because it's Sütterlin. It was just taught at a certain time in Germany, but my mom can still read it, and she translates it to us. So I also got a little bit into Sütterlin, and I wanted to understand. Now I can also read it a little bit, but I think not as good as my mom. Yeah, and also I found this sentence here very interesting, that my aunt has written, und es sollte auch wirklich nur für uns sein. It should solely be for us, which means yeah, that something handwritten is maybe very personal, and yeah, what for whom are these stories, what is meant to be read and by whom, and what are we sharing with whom, and maybe also what not. All these explorations led me to another concept, or yeah, a concept where I thought, okay, I could have a very shy style, which is maybe not readable, that can transform into a normal and readable style, and maybe it also could yeah, go into very extreme and destroys itself into a not readable style. There I also had this idea of mixed styles, where I could mix the ascenders and descenders with the X height of the other styles. Yeah, and I found this interesting, but yeah, the shape was not there. So, okay, here I had the idea of having an eye tracker that you can, if you read it, it gets readable, and then it destroys itself. Yeah, so before I had all these styles, and then I chose the blobby style to continue with, and to have it as a base for this concept I wanted to work on. So I worked on the thick style, which developed over the month a bit. I had two different style of capitals. The swash capitals that are going with in the beginning of a word, and the capital text alternatives, which are meant for be used with each other. So this also developed over the month quite a lot, especially the capitals evolved a lot, that they fit better together to each other, and they also make a nice texture. Then from the base of the thick style, the blobby style, I developed a thin style. So first I traced over the thick style with a pen and digitized it. And for me, it was also always very clear that they should share the same metrics, because I wanted, in animation on a website, I didn't want it to resize. So this was an early version of the thin style, and it developed a bit. And I was also, yeah, looking at different handwriting from 100 years ago in Germany, and I found interesting, yeah, the rigidity, but also there are some that have more character, and I was looking how to make different texture with my typeface. So with the thin and the thick style, I could edit them a bit and then have different textures showing. So what I did, that I found this the style in the middle very interesting, because there are blobs at the beginning and the end of the stroke, and it reminded me of a pen touching the paper, leaving a little bit of ink. And then if you put your pen up, then there's also a little the droplet. And so the thin style was born from these explorations. So next I could animate, because I had the two styles and I wanted to animate between them. To animate them, I did an interrupted interpolation. Therefore, I need another master. I animate from the very left to the very right character, but I need the in-between, the two in-between also as a master to interpolate too, and then I cut in the middle. Yeah, so this was the animation I had at this time. And then I thought, well, okay, if I can animate it like this, it could also appear. So I created three more masters. It's the very hairline version, the drops and the small blobs, and then this was the next animation. And then I was satisfied, and I was sure, okay, I want to have all character set animated in this way. Then I could make a workflow that is suited for this, because it was very complicated to think about how to put it into the interrupted interpolation. And I wanted to work in one UFO file, so I could see how the other styles look like, and also to keep the same metrics. So I had this one UFO file with all the layers I needed, and then I could write a script that, or first I thought about how all the layers have to, where the layers have to be positioned in the masters. And then I could write a script that does the work for me every time I want to export. Then I did some kerning, and also with the kerning, this was the before, I changed quite a lot of the uppercase letter shapes, because then I looked at the text and I was not satisfied with the texture, and I saw things that I didn't saw before. So this is the before and this is the after. Also, of course, then I had to do it in a thick style as well. This is the before and this is the after. And then I could do some mixed styles. So I could make the switch between the thick and the thin style. Also added some bigger ascenders and descenders. And here it is in use. It's quite nice to design with now. Now I get to enjoy to design with it, and it's quite fun. So these are all the styles. I have the null, then the dot, then the hairline version, the thin and the thick. And if the required variation alternates are off, which is the case, for example, in After Effects, they don't do the interrupted interpolation, then you will see drops and big drops and no letters. So I have the variable font on the left, and if the required variation alternates are off, this is the animation you will see. Here I'm, this is on the website that I built for testing, and I'm so looking forward to to test more what's possible. And these are all the styles. So I wanted to have it in every the character set in every style. And then at the end, I remembered back to something that Fritz Myers told me, that handwriting is not a sequence of letters, but more a sequence of shapes that native readers can decode as letters. And I liked it. So yeah, maybe you can read this now. Maybe you're a native reader to my typeface. Thank you for having me. This was my project. Yeah, I'm so glad that I could do this in this semester. Thank you to all the teachers for the support and for the classmates. And if you want to reach out, I'm looking forward to. Here is my mail and my Instagram. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Francisca. Amazing animations. Next one up, Teresa, are you here? Yes, you are.
Yes, I will start sharing. Okay, I hope you can see the screen. Hi, my name is Teresa Molfova, and this is my graduation project at Linux. I would like to start first a small introduction of me. I'm originally from Prague in Czech Republic, but I studied in Bratislava for 6 years. I did my bachelor's and master's there, and I finished there with my master project about interpolation errors. Because I was in type design, I was always interested in unconventional letter forms. And during my studies, I also did an internship in play type foundry. So when I applied to Typelab and I was accepted, and then there was this moment where we were supposed to think about our graduation project and find the right topic. Our teachers kept telling us that we should work on something that we enjoy, and yeah. So I had this question in my head, like, okay, what do I enjoy? And I remember that in the first semester we had this assignment to make a letter out of clay, and then we used this clay model to create a chocolate form for chocolate letter. And it was fun because it was something different, because as a type designer you spend a lot of time just looking at a screen, and so this was something else, and I really enjoyed it. So I started my graduation project with the question if I can use clay as a sketching tool. And right now I can say yes. I made many clay models, and I was exploring the material and what I can do with it. But I wasn't using just a clay. I also started exploring soap. I was cutting into soap, and was also cutting into sponges and observing all my models under different lighting. And after I collected all my physical models and had all these ideas in front of me, I had another question, like, how can I represent a 3D object in a two-dimensional environment? So I started sketching, and I also did some variable font experiments, and I was also experimenting with color fonts, but mainly I was interested in the shadows that kind of created the spatial effect of the letter. So I was also observing other kinds of cuts and how the shadow behave. And also I did more sketching, and I had this concept of making a typeface with small contours that can and then just observe those shadows. And the soap kind of was an ideal material for this experiment because it's very soft and it's not ideal for fine details. So I made this model out of paper tape, and yeah, then I was observing how the letters I created just by shadows. And thanks to this exploration, I made a recipe for my typefaces. I set the first rule that I want to use simple shapes because when I tried using like those shadow modification with like more complex shapes. I didn't like when I could see the original letter shape, and I think it's when I used something simple, then I could create more interesting abstract forms which could speak on its own. Another clear rule was that I should work with heavyweight to have enough space for those shadows. I also set a rule to use only vertical and horizontal contours because of the light angles I was using. I was also using deep cuts and long contours, so then I could, in those shadow letters, I could have longer shapes, and then the letters could be more recognizable. And the last rule was to prioritize shadow layer, which meant that I was designing the base black style with the shadow style in mind, which meant that I made some decisions there to make nice shadow letters. So based on this recipe, I started sketching, and I sketch a lot. And I designed this black style, which the initial idea was to have those small contours which are same across the whole alphabet, and those small contours also affected tight spacing. It was initially a rule, but throughout the process, I learned that I need to break this rule sometime. So for letters like uppercase O, I've opened the contour a bit because the letter was always too narrow or too black. About the features, I'm using these horizontal ink traps because letters with horizontal bar, I needed to keep the bar also in the shadow style, so that's why I'm using those ink traps. And I do the same also with lowercase letters and the diagonal letters. And even though I started strictly geometric with my letters, I opened the counter in the uppercase and lowercase c because there was again the problem that it was too heavy, and S has a bit more humanistic form. The diagonal letters have those flat sides because there was always problem also with the spacing. So to make it everything a bit more compact, I used those flat sides, and this decision also affected diacritics. So this is a small overview of the taste of the typeface, and this is the full character set. I made diacritics, and these are some of the languages that are supported. And as I mentioned, the black style is the base I used to later work with the shadow. So at first, when I had the black style, I was sketching over these letters, and I tried to figure out what character those shadows can have. And I ended up with a script which can be used in RoboFont, and I use it to generate inner shadows. It basically just duplicates the original shape, and then it shifted in several steps, and then it merged it again into one solid shape and subtracted with the original shape. And in the script, I can change the angle of the shadow and the length. The downside of the script is that it also generates some unnecessary points because of the steps of shifting. So even though I generated the shadow style, there were still, I still needed to do some manual cleaning. So these are the shadow angles I work with, but during the process, I reduced this selection to only 2 styles. The 45-degree angle remind me of calligraphy, so I kept that one, and the 225-degree angle had this like interesting slab-serif character, and I think it also comes nicely with the 45-degree angle. So I kept those 2, and I renamed them for people to better understand what I'm talking about. So right now they're called bottom left and top right, based on the character of the angle of the shadow and when the shadow comes from. So as I mentioned that I needed to do some cleaning of my generated shadow style, it wasn't just about removing necessary points, but I approached it as a type designer, and I also needed to do some optical adjustments. So I reduced the weight in curves and also in diagonal strokes because they were too heavy because of the angle of the shadow. I also made the thinnest part a bit thicker to make them like more noticeable. And there was also some moments when I had to break my rules. I didn't follow just the geometry. So for letter K, I made the upper diagonal a bit bigger, so then it's more recognizable what letter it is. And in other cases, like uppercase Z, I made some changes just to better match this letter with the rest of the typeface. And I think like this whole thing, so overall I came up with some interesting shapes, and even though it's an experiment, it's like still interesting how you can read some text set in this yeah, in this style. I also decided to add a bit lighter style to be able to set a bit longer text in a smaller size. And the translation from very heavy display style to medium style wasn't easy. And on the way, I lost those horizontal ink traps. And also the diacritics doesn't have those flat cuts anymore because it was just a too tiny detail for the typeface. And I opened the counters a bit more, as you can see in the uppercase C. This is an example of a running text, and we designed 3 sets of figures because it's also in the running text looked better to have old style figures. So this is the overview of my typefaces of the Almanex family. And since I had the fonts, I could come back to the materials and yeah, work with them and start experimenting again. Because for my project, I thought it would be the best if for the final exhibition, I would have something spatial that would better tell the story of the typeface and how it started and work with the material again. So I started exploring laser cutter and plexiglass. And right now I'm planning to use 2 plexiglass plates. Each of them would have one of the shadow styles, and then once they overlap, it will create the black style again. And since I was working with the plexiglass for the installation, uh, I was thinking, okay, where else I can use it so the whole project could be more connected. So I also used plexiglass as a material for cover of my process book. And I was also exploring resin because the black style and those shadow styles could be used individually, but also it's interesting to use them as a layered font. So I was exploring resin and gradients and what can you do with it. And I also use it for the specimen. So this was my gradation project. Thank you so much for having time, for making time to look at all our projects. And yeah, if you want to know something more about my typefaces, or you want to use it somewhere, or you just want to get in touch, you can write me on Instagram or my email address. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you, Teresa. Let's see, Mariam, can you join? Good.
Do you hear me and see my screen?
You can see your screen. You sound a bit muffled. Is the
What is it? Do you hear me better now?
Yeah, just speak up. No worries. Go ahead.
Okay. Hello. I hope everybody's okay, and thank you for joining us today. Also, thank you, Typelab and Taipan Media for giving us this platform to present our works today. So this is my the process of my graduation project. My name is Mariam Golpaygani. I was born and raised in Iran, Tehran. I lived in a year in Montreal, and now I'm based in The Hague. I'm a type designer and a calligrapher, and I specialize in Arabic type design. I got interested into type design through calligraphy first, and I was very enthusiastic, especially about Nastaliq calligraphy, which is something Persians are mostly interested in. And when I came to Type and Media, I started learning a lot about Latin type design. And when we were starting to think about our graduation project, I started thinking that about the things I had learned in type and media, and realized that in Latin typography, there are many ways of creating context and emphasis in text that I was not really seeing in Arabic type families. And the reason is that when Arabic started becoming simplified for type design, it had to go through a lot of simplifications that took away a lot of the characteristics of the script itself. But since I was very interested in calligraphy always, I was always very in touch with manuscripts, and I would go through manuscripts a lot and look at them a lot. And something that I realized when I was thinking about an idea for my graduation project is that in Arabic, if you look at books, there is many examples of using various calligraphy styles in the same page to create hierarchy. So these slides that I'm showing, each of them are different calligraphy styles that are collected in the same page to create some sort of hierarchy and differentiation in text to just form a whole composition. So I started thinking about the fact that there this many options exist in our system. So even though in the calligraphy tradition, hierarchy is achieved through switching between different calligraphy styles, why don't we see it in type families? So I started thinking about this project as an experiment with structure. And this structure that I'm talking about is because right now in most Arabic type families, hierarchy is mostly achieved through weights. So Arabic type families are usually expanded in how heavy they get. But I was thinking about what if I can work on an alternative way of creating a structure of a typeface. But what structure? When I started thinking about it, there weren't many examples that I could look at. This project, the whole concept of this project was very new to me, and also like in Arabic type design in general. There are like two examples that I could find. One is Lyon Arabic that has a upright and a slanted version. And there's also this family tree of Mizan that only one style has been published. But in general, this project has not been explored that much in Arabic typography. And since I found it very authentic to the way the script works, I decided to go for it and work on this family and this concept for my graduation project. So as I was trying to think about the structure, I realized that for a family to work, it probably needs a text version and then something that brings a little bit of a subtle difference, and also something that has a bit of a contrast so that I can introduce different usages of calligraphy styles in the same family. So I started thinking about usage more and more. And with that in mind, I started sketching. And I sketched a lot, and I was like thinking, how do I make them belong together, but also how do I make them different? How do I simplify them? How do I make them belong to the same family? And also, how do I add Latin to it so that I can work on a biscript typeface, because it's something that I am interested in, to bring different voices together and allow biscript typography to have different options. So I also try to set some goals for this project. One of the goals is to just stay away from conventional solutions for Arabic typography, like adding weights. It was an unconventional method, and also to create a equal space for my Arabic and Latin to work together, because it's very important for me to give everything equal space and equal care. So this is when I started thinking about my family much more precisely. I started thinking about naming it and also defining the structure and usages more. It started with text, tilting, and accent, both in Arabic and Latin. To go talk about process a little bit, first of all, I'm going to start with the text version, but I worked on all of them kind of simultaneously. So in the text version, what I was trying to achieve in Arabic and Latin, first of all, was to work on the texture of each so that they're harmonized. And I was also new to Latin, so I got a lot of help from my teachers and classmates to improve the shapes. But I was also very careful that I do not match anything, and I keep every script very close to what it is inheritedly. Also, I was thinking about the tone, and to test that, I was usually just testing it in a texture of a text and just like looking at them and see how, if they're vibing together or not. I also had an experiment with size because when you look at Arabic and Latin next to each other, they're very different in their characteristic. Latin has these counters, and it has a very a lot of emphasis in its vertical stance. But Arabic is a little bit different. So I had a lot of challenges pairing the size of these two. So I had to think about what are the main things that make Arabic and Latin look different or similar in their texture. So I thought about that's the stem weight and the X height of Arabic of Latin makes the texture of them compared to each other. So I went through a lot of test sheets to testing different sizes in different textures to just choose a pair that I found the most compatible. And then as I was going with this, I went to the other two styles. And these other two styles were the main challenging part of my project, because even though there are like some fonts that are made based on them, but these fonts are not belonging to the same family. And I wanted to bring everything to the same family. So I faced a lot of challenges. One challenge is that in both of these styles, the letters cascade and they have a very calligraphy emotion to it. So I had to first define how far I want to get from calligraphy. And then as I was also thinking about that, another thing with these two calligraphy styles is that they have a cascading nature. So when letters connect in Arabic, they climb on each other and they make this angle that is very steep, and it's doable to bring it in a font, but it makes the workload very complicated. And my project was already a little bit too big, so I had to completely forget about these cascades, bring everything on a same baseline so that letters don't have angles like that. But the thing is, when you do that, you kind of kill the characteristic and the differences between them. So I had to introduce axis and slant and try to emphasize on axis and slant of each of these calligraphy styles to make them very different from each other. And also it helped me, gave me a way to also make a connection with Latin with them. But also slanting letters in Arabic is different than Latin. So here I'm illustrating that on top left, when you rotate, when you slant Latin to right and left, it has a consistent way of changing its thicknesses. But Arabic is different. What I was trying to do was not to just slant things right and left. I was trying to go back to different calligraphy styles that inheritedly have some sort of slant, so that I can emphasize on their differences, but also keep them together working in a system. There was another challenge that I was facing, is that in my tilting and accent style, these calligraphy styles are full of ligatures. And if you don't introduce those ligatures, the texture looks very off. So I had to find a way to think of a system of how do I introduce these ligatures into my accent and tilting styles. So in the end, I had to design many ligatures in order to make a better texture for my typeface. And these ligatures were also very different in their structure. It's not, again, I'm emphasizing that I wasn't just like slanting things right and left. I had to go back to calligraphy every time and think about a way to make them look similar, but also keep them true to their origins. I got a lot of feedback from Christian Sarkis, but I also did a lot of sketches myself, just trying to quickly think about how do I want to simplify the structure of these two calligraphy styles. I also got very valuable feedback from Amir Mehdi Moslehi and Samer Zurek. Thank you, both of you, for helping me. And then as I was thinking about simplifying these two styles, I had to also think about Latin. And this was very challenging because this structure already was very new in Arabic, but to also add 3 different Latins to it was a lot of challenges. I thought about it a lot. I sketched a lot. I tried so many different things. I got so many feedback from my teachers and my classmates. And also, I had to think about how do I exactly want to match Latin and Arabic in these two slanting styles. So when I was thinking about the pairing, I realized that the best way probably is to try to only match the axis and the angle that Arabic and Latin are looking, and also the speed of writing, which could bring both of the calligraphy styles to a simple version, to a simple mindset of matching them with a Latin, so that I don't go and overcomplicate my workload. So I worked also on my italics with the help of my teachers. And then I started to finally, like, after dealing with so many different styles, I started trying to harmonize all the family together and think more and more about how they sit next to each other in a text, and also start to thinking about where do I actually want to use this typeface. Also, like, I went into a little bit of refining the text in my Arabic styles to like introduce contextual alternates to improve the shape of a texture of my text typeface. And I also like added some contextual alternate to help collisions. Also brought some ligatures in to make it more vibrant, and also added vocalization marks for Arabic, which is very important for the text to have them. I worked more and more, and I did a lot of proofs to improve the shape of the texture in my Arabic. I also got very valuable feedback on diacritics. I learned a lot about diacritics. I had no idea how to design them, but thank you, Alexandra, for helping me learn so much. But like, this is a Persian tea waiter trying to handle so many teacups at the same time. This is like a flexing way for Persian waiters. And this project in general felt a little bit like this. I was juggling with so many different things at the same time. So like, in the beginning, it was like 3 calligraphy styles. I didn't have any examples to look at. I had to work with 2 scripts that one of them was completely new to me. And I also had to like harmonize everything in this super big family. But then also at the same time, when the second semester started and we had to think about our graduation projects, I'm from Iran. So a war started, many political stuff started happening in my country, and there were so many things that I had to try to handle together. And all of this to say that this is the story of my graduation project, Triole, which explores different tones of voice in a biscript typeface. It investigates how Latin and Arabic can coexist in a system that is based on Arabic. It emphasizes the differences of my calligraphy styles through angle and axis. It's a study on axis, and it brings an alternative approach to expanding an Arabic type family that is not conventional. This is the character set I ended up designing. This is the text version in Arabic and Latin. This is the tilting style, and this is the accent style. When I finished like working on this huge character set, it was a delight to finally set text and see all of these styles together, working very nicely, sitting very nicely next to each other in a page, and this was very new to me. When I started this project, I had no idea how it might look like. It was really scary to just pick something this strange and unconventional for my graduation project. Also, like, it was really tricky because it was many new things for me to learn through this project, but I'm very happy I did it because it's very meaningful for me to keep every script very true to its own, and I think this was a very valuable exploration for me. It gave me a chance to work on the usage of this typeface as I was designing this specimen for my graduation show. And yeah, these are some letters that there might not have like access when you individually look at them, but when you see Arabic in text, that's when you kind of feel the different axes that it follows. Yeah. And in the end, I have to thank my incredible classmates and Typelab Media and everybody that I met this year, everybody that helped me. And it was an amazing year. And thank you all. Feel free to contact me if you had any questions. And thank you.
All right, Mariam, thank you. Those are the 10 graduating projects of this year. We've seen Mariam, Teresa, Franchi, Lucia, Ayaka, Gabriel, Gintara, Adriana, Lisa. I want to say thank you to Typelab and Typographics and Toby Cooper for allowing us to show the work and to join the program for today. It's wonderful to reach out to your audience and to see over 20, well, many people on YouTube, and quite a few people here as well. So to everybody watching, I hope you had a nice afternoon. I hope you saw wonderful work. Get in touch with them. Come visit the Typer Media graduation show if you're in The Hague, starting next week, July 2nd. It opens until July 7th. That's a Tuesday, which is also, I think, 4 o'clock Tuesday is graduation ceremony. So if you want to cheer and see all of these fantastic people pick up the diplomas, that's the day to come. So not next Tuesday, but week after. Peter, you have any closing words?
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Amazing lineup. Seeing it for the second time, I was there in the presentation on Thursday, and then figuring out how many I missed. Seeing it for a second time, so many details, so much work. Amazing what 12 students, 11 students do in a year.
Yeah.
To be jealous of that they can spend so much time on those projects. Yeah, very good to have you here. This is what the Typelab is intended for, making a low bar for incredible work. And yeah, I hope to continue this. Congratulations for everyone. Everyone that you saw graduated, and you're starting your career. So this is a good start in reaching out to the public, not just the people who were here, which was somewhere between 25, a little bit over 30, which is a normal amount nowadays for Typelabs. But then since we have the YouTube channel, which will stay on for a while, and the video is visible in the graduation exhibition in The Hague Academy, for those who are close by and want to go there. Yeah, this concludes the 3 days of Typelab, or our online contribution this year.
Isn't the Typelab America still continuing?
I'm about to start, I think. The program is on the website, led by Jen Ramirez and others. I especially want to thank Tim, who did a lot of work on this here, the Typelab Europe. And I'm really grateful to everybody contributing, all the speakers, all the visitors. Spread the word, and especially for these 10 graduates from Type Media who were showing excellent work today. Thank you all so much, and
Thank you.
see you another time. Small world, another occasion.
So,
Bye.
bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.